All right, so today we're going to be looking at the spinal cord and some nerves that go along in order to understand whether or not we're looking at the anterior, posterior side of the spinal column. You'll look for the bifid process, which is this notch up here, if you're in particularly looking at this model. But if not, you will be looking at these pointed wings right here. The pointed side is your landmark, letting you know that you're looking at this posteriorly. So what we're going to start is talking about the Mennings, which is 3 protective layers that go around the spinal column. 1, 2, 3. And so the first layer we are going to talk about is the dura mater, which is this one right here. This is your outermost layer and what you're going to think of is durable doorway. The middle layer right here is called the arachnoid mater, and it gets its name from its spiderweb-like appearance. And then right here, which is what is the innermost layer that surrounds, directly touches the spinal cord, is the pia mater. Now we're going to take a look at the spinal cord cross sections, which is, we're going to be looking at the inside of the spinal cord and some of their features. We're going to start with orientation. We know that if we're looking at these pointed parts, that is posterior, and the more rounded section is interior. The interior ventral median fissure is this line right here. It is a deep groove that runs along the front side of the spinal cord. And while we're looking at posteriorly, it is the posterior median sulcus, and it's a shallow groove that runs alongside the middle of the posterior aspect of the spinal cord.
So this butterfly shape, this is the gray matter. And then this bridge-like structure is the gray commissure, and that connects the 2 sides of the spinal cord, helping communication between them. And then this hole right in the middle, that's the central canal, and that serves as a passageway for the cerebrospinal fluid, helping cushion the spinal cord. So this right here is the dorsal horn, meaning posterior, and that is the key role in processing sensory information. And then the anterior horn is right here, and that controls the motor functions. And then lastly, the lateral horn, which is right here, that's involved in the autonomic nervous system. It's like the fight or flight.
So now we're looking at a different model of the spinal cord without the vertebrae attached. To determine if we're looking at it posteriorly, you can look at the horns on the butterfly, the gray matter. The posterior side is where you see these long horns here at the top, and that's how we can see if we're looking at the anterior or posterior side. Now we're going into the dorsal, anterior, and lateral columns of the spinal cord. Outside of this gray matter, we have our white matter, which contains our columns. On the posterior side, that is our dorsal columns, which carries ascending sensory information to the CNS. On the opposite side is our anterior columns. That carries motor information. And then on the other side is our lateral columns on both. That carries primarily sensory information as well. So on the dorsal side of the spinal column, we see these little wires here. Those are our roots. This is specifically the dorsal root, which is allowing entry of sensory information from the periphery to the CNS. In front here is our ventral roots that allows motor neurons to leave the spinal cord, commanded by the CNS. And then lastly, we're talking about the dorsal root ganglion, which is like this bubble-like here. This is a relay station, which is a receptor for sensory information, which gets relayed to the CNS. by the columns.